question is a pertinent one. I have been elected as governor of Ekiti State. I was not elected as chairman of Governors Forum by Ekiti people. That's an election of my peers that decided to elevate me to the leadership of the forum. I don't see a conflict in the two positions. One basically is just a first among equals position. The Nigerian Governors Forum has a full-fledged secretariat that runs its operations. It meets averagely only once a month, except there is an emergency. And this monthly meeting is usually tied to the National Economic Council, which governors are mandatorily expected to attend because that's a constitutional body. So really, yes, I have other assignments on behalf of my colleagues, primarily in engaging the federal government, in engaging development partners, in engaging other critical stakeholders, particularly the legislature, the National Assembly. But I do not see this as getting in the way of my primary assignment as governor of Ekiti State. So I think our people at home and abroad should rest assured that my primary focus is Ekiti. In terms of what gains are to be expected as the chairman of the Governors Forum, well, inevitably, it brings prominence to our state. Every time issues relating to states are mentioned, it's likely you hear of the views of the chairman, because part of my responsibilities involve speaking for and on behalf of my colleagues. That's not to suggest that they can't speak individually as governors of their states, but when it becomes a collective issue, then the tradition, the convention is that the chairman is responsible for articulating the position and the vision of governors on behalf of governors. And it's not unlikely that every time you say that the chairman of the Governors Forum, you are likely to say it's the governor of Ekiti State. That's what the tradition has been. It's a structured entity, and there are bound to be gains that will come. But I don't want to be quoted as saying that I'm chairman of Governors Forum in order to bring the goodies to Ekiti. The simple point we made about what transpired here was that I have no problem with recruiting Ekiti sons and daughters where there are vacancies and where due process has been followed. In all the reviews that was undertaken, it was our considered view that due process was not followed, but that those who have been recruited under those circumstances really deserve to be given the opportunity to apply for a process that has followed due civil service rules. And that's precisely what is going to happen. We have not technically or directly knocked out anyone. We have stopped an improper, irregular exercise. And I think it's important that we do that for the sake of all of us in Ekiti, so that when our youngsters who applied for these jobs want to do so now, they would be confident that regardless of whoever is coming in, they have followed all the processes. They were not hurriedly recruited. I mean, the government that did this had 4 years to recruit people. You have to ask yourself, how come it was only after the July 14 election? I'm going to talk to you about the ones that came before. You refer to 270 that came before. As a matter of fact, we're taking some of those people back already. I have looked at the case of architects, for example. A number of architects recruited today, this morning. And I've said that the head of service should reabsorb them because in the first instance, they were recruited before the July 14 election. They had been working, but their recruitment did not follow the complete process of being incorporated into our biometric integrated payroll system. And I've given the instruction that, look, we need to look at this one differently. We've also reinstated nurses, doctors who fell into this category that you've just mentioned. All we have said is that we're going to have to do it on a case-by-case basis. If you know that you have a good case, please present it. This is not a witch hunt. We're not interested in targeting anyone. Governments will come, governments will go in Ekiti, governments will recruit. Now that we're going to do it objectively, advertise objectively, carry out the process in accordance with what obtains with the Civil Service Commission, Teaching Service Commission, SUBEB, and whatever else the institution is that is saddled with recruitment, we will make it open. All of those who are claimed to have been sacked, I don't want to go into any discussion over 2,000. The truth of the matter is that there are no 2,000 people that have been sacked. But that's a different issue. If you want, I will give you the specifics of that. But no 2,000 people were recruited, and no 2,000 people have been sacked. As far as we are concerned, we have not sacked anybody. You cannot sack someone who has not been recruited. Minimum wage is not a matter for us alone in Ekiti State. There is a process. Once a minimum wage has been signed into law, there is a process of labor and government coming together to work out what it is that has been done. But the point to make, Olu, which is extremely important for our people at home to know, is that a minimum wage increase is not necessarily and cannot be construed as a general wage review. This minimum wage just applies to those who have been earning less than 30,000 naira before now. Of course, there may be consequential impact on some other cadres, but it would just ensure that whatever the gap is between the lowest person under 30,000 is going to earn would not impact on the senior person closest to that person in maybe level 7 or thereabouts. So I think it's important for people to know that this would only affect primarily those whose wage is lower currently than 30,000. So we haven't had that engagement yet. The head of service, the Commissioner for Finance, myself, we really are ready to roll out the minimum wage in Ekiti, but we need to ensure that we have the standard procedure followed between labor and government.